Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's that time of the week where we get to take a look at the coolest new products that have just hit our shelves. Let's check them out. All right, first up is technically a restock. Our Real Steel Luna Knife Center exclusive has been restocked. You guys flew through these the first time we had them in, so I wanted to show it to you again now as well. And the greatest thing about this knife is we still have it at our special intro price of just under 30 bucks. So that's a really good deal when you factor in what you're getting with this knife. Now this is a slip joint knife, even though it has a more modern look. It's got kind of that Stormtrooper vibe, although maybe that's not so much modern since they're from a galaxy far, far away a long time ago. It's just a cool little knife with a really cool little color scheme going on. D2 blade steel, about 2 3/4 of an inch. Full flat grind, no nail nick, but you've got dual fullers on each side there, so it's very easy to open two-handed. Nice kind of 1/3 stop as opposed to a half stop, so you've got that good little bit of safety measure built in, and a nice little snap on the close. You can see there on the back also, we've got a nice black pocket clip, and all kinds of just black contrast against the white. Looks really cool. White G10, by the way. But it feels great opening up. You got a nice little bit of jimping here down right at the ricasso of the blade. So you got a little bit of traction there. So even though you don't have a finger guard, you've got a little bit there to keep your finger from sliding forward if you're doing some heavier work. But it is a slip joint, so you know, take heavier work, that phrase, with a little grain of salt. With a blade, thin blade like this, it's gonna slice really well. It's not exactly a hard use knife, it's just a really awesome everyday carry. All right, speaking of slip joints, we've got a new variant of the new Serge Panchenko production slip joint V3s. This is one of the Persian style blades. Comes in about $165, and we've got a blue anodized titanium handle here with a really cool stone washed finish on it that I just think looks fantastic. It's kind of like your favorite pair of jeans. It feels broken in right away. It's got a real, just kind of a rough and tumble look to it. But with a real cool finish like that, you're not gonna have to worry about other things in your pocket banging into it, because really it's just gonna make it look even better. Pocket clip on this knife as well, right side only, just like on that Luna. But M390 blade steel, straight back profile is the Persian blade option. Again, about 2 3/4 of an inch. So you kind of have a lower end and a higher end slip joint option this week, in right about the same format, just a little bit different. But you've got a full flat grind on here, nice heavy, heavy stone wash. Looks almost like Rick Hinderer's working finish, as opposed to the slightly nicer looking, I shouldn't say nicer looking, the slightly more refined looking stone wash option, we'll say. Instead, it's just got a little bit of a heavier etched feeling to it, a little more rough and tumble. All right, speaking of rough and tumble, we've got a new TDI knife from K-Bar, and looks very different from the previous TDI knives that have been out there. But this is another official design from John Bender of the Tactical Defense Institute. This is called the TDI Pocket Strike. It comes in about 50 bucks for this Taiwanese made knife. Blade itself is about 3 1/4 inches, or about 3.19. That's rather exact for me to have said about, but whatever. Real cool drop point shape, hollow ground, AUS 8 stainless steel, and you've got a nice heavy powder coat on that. Not for rust resistance like you would on some of K-Bar's 1095 Crovan blades, but more for the reduction of reflections, because this is a tactical knife after all. The handle scales on each side are nylon, nice and minimal. They're just there to give you a little bit of extra grip, as opposed to having something that's more intended for hard use ergonomics. This is just to make sure you've got enough of a grip there to control the blade in a tactical scenario. And then of course you've got the ring there on the back, gives you a little bit of extra retention. Works well in the reverse grip. Certainly a lot of room on these handles. My slightly larger than average hands have a good bit of space in here. I don't feel like my hands are cramped. And even if I had a pair of heavier, or maybe not super heavy gloves, but a pair of tactical or duty gloves, if I were wearing those, I'd probably still have enough room on this handle. So take that under advisement. Now, I'm not really a tactically trained person, so although even though you mostly think of a knife like this being typically used tactically in a reverse grip, I think it also feels fairly good in a forward grip, which is good because this type of blade shape here goes beyond tactical. This is just a solid everyday carry utility type of blade shape. Nice wide drop point. Yeah, you're gonna be able to open boxes, no problem. So if you need a self-defense knife, but you don't wanna give up the utilitarian aspect of your daily carry, and you don't wanna carry 2 separate knives, this might be a good option for you. Now, as far as the sheath, this is a nylon fiberglass affair, and you can see there is a clip here on the side, so you can carry this inside or outside the waistband, and you can flip it to the other side as well to suit your carry. And pretty much the whole thing is buried there, or the whole knife handle is buried into that sheath except for the ring itself. So you would really be able to carry this nice and deep inside the waistband if that's what you wanted to do, with just enough there to reach in either in your forward or reverse grip and pull that knife out and you're ready to go. All right, next up we've got a new Spyderco. This is actually a collaboration with Lion Steel. This is the SpyOpera, coming in at $175. And the name SpyOpera, obviously Spy from Spyderco, and Opera because this is based on the Lion Steel Opera knife, which doesn't come with the Spyderco opening hole. It's more of a traditional drop point type of profile. So if you like that, but you like Spyderco and you like one-hand opening, here's a new option for you. These are made in Italy still. They are still made by Lion Steel. You can even see the Lion Steel logo right there on the back. M390 steel, about 2.9 inches, so you're under that 3-inch mark, which of course is an important metric in some locales. And another typical Lion Steel touch. You've got a nice crowned spine here, so it's very comfortable, both behind that thumb hole if you're going to use that as a ramp, as well as right in front if you're going to choke up on it. And that crowning actually continues through the backlock too. Just a nice, classy looking touch. Now the handles here are brown canvas micarta, or more of a natural type of look, with a bit of a higher polish on it. It's not a super matte finish, which is good, I think, on a classier knife like this. It deserves that kind of extra little bit of shine. Also, Spyderco's deep carry pocket clip, the wire clip there on the right side, makes this just a really cool gentleman's option if you're okay with the one-hand opening there. Now, one of the nice things about the action on this knife is the back spring on the lockback isn't super stiff. So one-hand opening is still very fluid, actually. That's the kind of the defining characteristic, I think, of the experience of this knife, is that smooth, fluid opening. I mean, I love knives like the Spyderco Delica, but they've just got a little bit more resistance to overcome when you're opening them one-handed that you just don't get here. It's nice. I don't know how else to say it. Just watch. It's very nice. Very cool little knife from Lion Steel and Spyderco. All right, next up, I've got a new knife from WE. We've actually had this for a few weeks in. I've just keep forgetting to grab one of these for this video segment, so here we go. Keeping with sort of the Italian theme here, even though this is a Chinese-made knife, because of course, well, not of course, I haven't told you the name yet. The name of this knife is the Roman, and it's actually based on the Sardinian patata style of knives from Italy as well. Of course, Spyderco has a new patadese coming out soon. But because that pattern, I felt it appropriate to follow up the Italian-made Lion Steel with this pattern here. This is an Alessandro De Santis design. It comes in about a little bit over 190 with about 4 inches of S35 VN steel with that really acute point going on there. You're going to be able to open up some boxes and packages very nicely with this knife. Titanium for the frame. You've got a frame lock there on the back. A little bit of a extending back spacer here that forms that little bit of protruding pommel there at the back. And this is a front flipper knife as well, even though it kind of mimics the look of some of the old friction folders with the kind of top tab here. So it is a front flipper, and I'm actually do a pretty decent job with this, but you do have to make sure, because of that tab, you keep your hands a little further down the handle just so there's enough space for it to come around. I messed it up. I was doing it no problem earlier. You guys know I suck at those. But this is a really nice one. A few different handle finishes and blade finishes are available. This, of course, is the black on black, but there's bronze stone-washed handles. There's stone-washed blades as well. A few other options. If you want to check those out, go right ahead. One thing that's important to note on this knife, when it's closed up here, no pocket clip here, no sheath either. However, it is going to carry pretty easily because of how narrow it is, and should still be decently easy to extract because of that little piece of back spacer that protrudes there at the back as well. All right, next up we've got a new smaller flipper knife from Jake Hoback. This is the Enoch flipper. Made in the USA, comes in at $255. So the fact that it's made in the USA for what you're getting here, it's fairly competitively priced, I gotta say. Blade itself, a bit over 3 inches. You've got CPM 20 CV blade steel, the American version after all. And just a really cool type of shape. Hoback, of course, is known for his Quayback, which has a big Tonto Quakin style of blade. I'd say this is actually a little bit more of a traditional Quakin style of blade on this Enoch right here. You've got the nice straight back profile, nice little profile there for either maybe some small tactical uses, but more likely just to be used for some all-around EDC, and it's going to do a real good job there. Now you've got a decent amount of thickness to the blade. It's not a super thin, super slicey profile, and that follows through with the grind as well. It's not a full flat grind. They've kept a fair bit of meat at the spine, or at least here down the middle. They have relieved the spine with the swedge there, but that gives you a fair bit of strength despite the small size. Again, for those sort of smaller backup tactical rolls. There's 2 handle options. You got black or green G10 right now with a little bit of machining going on, liner lock, and caged ball bearings in the pivot, which makes sure that this is going to be a nice flipping design. And as you can see there, it folded up real nice and small so you could carry it quite easily in your pocket. Now the pocket clip here on the back features sort of a heavy stone wash to match the blade. And you got a good bit of depth on this pocket clip as well. So you should have some pretty good retention there, and you've still got plenty of handle sticking up there at the back so you can grab it in a hurry if you need to. All right, next up we're going back to Spyderco a little bit with their Byrd sub-brand. This is the new Harrier 2 with all stainless steel construction, coming in about $33 right now. And the Harrier 2 is kind of their Indela-sized knife in the Byrd lineup. You've got a blade that's about 3.36 inches long, HCR 13 steel, so just simple budget steel, easy to maintain. And you've got the finger choil here, which is something the Indelas and the Delicas and those sort of knives don't have, so you can kind of choke up a little bit and get some better control over the blade. Handles, as I said, are stainless steel, and in typical Spyderco fashion, you can see no external pins going on. All of the attachment hardware happens inside, which is a bit of an older technique at this point that a lot of companies just don't pull off anymore. Might be a bit of a disappearing skill. So it's really cool to see that on a production knife still to this day. Of course, these also make a really great platform for customization. If you're an engraver out there, you can do some really beautiful stuff with a blank canvas like this. Also really good as a gift. You can engrave some initials in there, especially with the holidays coming up here. Might be something real nice to think about. And like the Delicas or like the Indelas, this works for just about anyone too, because you've got that mid-mounted lock back. It's ambidextrous. Same goes with the opening hole and a 4-position pocket clip. So really this is going to work for just about anyone, either as is, as an affordable gentleman's knife, or you could really spice it up and do something extra special. All right, next up we've got actually a fair bit of new stuff from Victorinox, Swiss Army folks. We've got the new Onyx Black collection, which consists of 3 different knives. We've got the Signature, the Spartan, and the Ranger Grip 55. So I'll go through those real quick, starting with the Spartan, of course, classic Swiss Army model. And you've got a black Celador scale with a black coated blade. And I think they call this the Inox spectral coating. It's not like a powder coat or anything like that. It actually reminds me a lot of gun bluing, just with a little fewer blue undertones. It's more of just a nice black, and you get some shine off of it too. You actually get the spectral quality of the metal can carry through that black finish. So in terms of just the beauty of any black finish out there on any knife, this really takes the cake. Then of course you've got an extra small blade, can opener and bottle opener on the front, screwdriver and reamer on the back, or an awl, whatever you want to call it, as well as a nice little key fob or a nice little lanyard here on the back to kind of tie things together. Oh, I just realized I called this corkscrew a screwdriver. Screw's in the name, so whatever. You can use your eyes, you know what that is, right? There you go. Next up, we've got the Signature, which is the smaller classic SD sized knife, but it's a little bit thicker because we've got a couple extra features built into the scales. The first, there's no battery in this one right now, so it won't come on, but if you push the button on the shield, if it's a momentary on, hold it down, you've got a small LED right there, just enough to make sure you don't trip in the dark. And you've also got, with this retractable switch here, a pressurized ballpoint pen cartridge there in the side, so you can actually write with this as well. As far as tools, you've got scissors, you've got a blade, you've also got, instead of a nail file from the Classic, you've got a small flathead screwdriver with some ruler graduations there on the side. And then of course you've got the Ranger Grip 55, one-hand opening blade here with that really cool finish. Pardon the, let me pull my rag out here, pardon the extra oil right there. That's just special shipping oil. It usually costs extra, but you get it for free if you buy it from us right now. Now what's nice about these blades compared to something like the Trekker, the one-hand Trekker series, they're both technically liner locks, but whereas the Trekker has sort of a left-hand biased liner lock that can be used with the right hand, it's just not as typical as what you normally see. This liner lock is technically kind of a button lock because you can push the shield here and that moves the liner out of the way, which will then let you close that blade. Then of course you've got the Victorinox saw, which is an excellent saw. You've got your can opener and your cap lifter there. Oh, one thing to note, the toothpick and tweezers on this and the Spartan are actually black instead of a white toothpick with a white tip on the tweezer. You got black instead here to keep things nice and stealthy. And then on the back, you've got your awl, and that's not a screwdriver, that's a corkscrew. But it's a really cool finish on all these knives, and the Ranger Grip 55 is especially cool. Really nice alternative to the Trekker out there if you were looking for something along those lines. This is just even a little bit bigger than that knife, so you have even more capability. Oh, prices on these knives I didn't mention. We're at about $63 on the Signature, $120 on the Ranger Grip 55, and the Spartan splits the difference at about $80. But we've got some more Victorinox here, much less expensive. Their new folding paring knife series, which all come in just under 17 bucks. And there's a few different versions, a few different colors, and each color has a plain edge and a fully serrated version. So you've got your choices there. I've got the red plain edge here, and just arrived today here at the Knife Center, or at least the day we're filming this, is the yellow handled versions. And I hope they're gonna be up on the site by the time this video goes up, but if not, they should be up very shortly after that. But really cool concept here, actually. These are locking blades. They've got a liner lock, and it is sort of a left-handed liner lock. So it's lefty, definitely lefty friendly, but it folds up nice and neat there, very lightweight as well. Let me see what we're dealing with here on our specs. 1.5 ounces, so not bad, especially considering you get about 4.3 inches of blade to work with. Now I know they call it a paring knife. I think that's actually a little long for a paring knife, and I would like a point on my paring knife, but it's a good kitchen utility type of shape for, you know, in your kitchen, or you can take these along for a picnic. You can take one of the black handled versions if you want to be boring, and take the either version into a restaurant. You can have your personal steak knife there with you. They're really nice for that. Take them camping. These would be real nice in a camp cooking kit. Real nice for youngsters because you've got the blunted blade and the lock there as well. And like I said, about 17 bucks. You really can't go wrong with any of these. All right, keeping with the kitchen theme for just a minute, I've got some new steak knives I really wanted to show you. This is part of Viper's Sakura line of kitchen knives, which are a Jens Anso and Jesper Vaknes collaboration. And these things are just gorgeous. I mean, look at that. You've got a Nitro B blade. Each one's about 4.5 inches with a nice upsweep. It's gonna orient really nicely on a plate when you're cutting your steak. You've got nothing but belly there to saw through the, or not saw, to elegantly slice through the meat. Because this is a very elegant knife overall. You can get them in either 2-packs or 4-packs. The 2-pack comes in about $130, the 4-pack at $255. So you save a couple bucks there if you buy the 4. You save about $5, I guess. I just love them. They're just really cool. It's got a great amount of style to it. Bacote handles, and check out right here, right in front of the scales. You've even got a little bit of milling or engraving on the blade itself, which just sets it over the top. Definitely want to check these out. Now, if you really like the way these look, and I really like the way these look, and you want some other options in this line for your kitchen, they've got a paring knife and a couple different sizes of chef knife as well if you wanted to coordinate things. All right, next up we've got a new tactical knife. This is the Tier 1 Mini from FOBOS Knives. Comes in about $240, and FOBOS is for operators by operators, so you can clearly tell by the name of the company what they're kind of intending this for. but you would actually kind of fool me a little bit. If I didn't see a name on this, if somebody just handed me this design, I might think it was sort of a tactical / hunting knife crossover due to the size and the orientation right here. Now I say that because the blade itself is only about 4 inches, so it's a nice length for a hunting knife. And of course you've got a lot of belly here as well on the blade, which is CPM 154, I should mention. And the angle to the handle cants that point down a little bit. It just feels like a classic kind of hunting knife shape, just kind of dressed up in tactical duds. It's a pretty cool little design. Now the blade itself, like I said, CPM 154, we've got a convex grind with a secondary bevel, so you got a good amount of strength here, not least of which because of that grind, but also because of the blade thickness. We're at about 3/16 here. Plenty of strength. A little bit of a swedge here right behind the tip. They wanted to keep the tip, I guess, a little more robust instead of swedging it all the way out there. But you do get a little bit of relief there when you're cutting through some materials. Now there's some pretty broad jimping in a few places, both a wide patch here at the thumb, as well as some slightly smaller diameter jimps here at the back of the handle, as well as in the main index finger groove right there. Definitely gives you a lot of traction, backed up by these micarta handle scales. This version has some red liners, but there are a ton of different color options for this particular knife. I'm not even gonna go through them all. A few different micartas, bunch of different liners, and I'm pretty sure you can get all the 3 colors of micarta with all the different liner options, so you can find a lot to take a look at on the site. Nice big lanyard hole at the back. You can definitely fit quite a bit of cordage through there, and a nice protruding pommel here at the back. You'll be able to do some kind of crushing stuff with that. Now, if you were to take this knife into the outdoors and you're asking if you could strike a fire steel with this protruding pommel, I don't think it's quite crisp enough, but you might be able to run that over a stone to get it a little crisper if that's your cup of tea. Now, in terms of the handle itself, like I said, it does kind of point the tip down a little bit. It's going to make it real easy to use all that belly on some slicing cuts, as well as still use the tip fairly effectively. But I will say this is probably not the knife if you have really big hands out there. I feel a little bit cramped with my slightly larger than averages here, just holding it in the standard grip. But folks here at the office that have a more of an average size hand found these to be very comfortable. But you do have some extra options for the bigger pawed folks out there. Of course, you got a nice broad finger choil here at the front, so you can choke up right behind the edge, and that does feel very comfortable. Even if I'm doing some carving, I feel like that would feel very nice. And in addition to that, you've got a nice bevel here at the front for your thumbs to rest there and get a nice pinch grip as well. Sheaths on these guys are leather. As you can see here, it's a simple pancake style of sheath. But what's really nice is on the back, they give you multiple carry options. You can thread your belt loop or your belt through this 2 different ways and carry it either horizontal or vertical. Now, speaking of hunting, we've got a new version of a new knife here. A couple weeks ago, I showed you the new Tops 3-pointer with micarta scales. We've also got it now in a skeletonized version, coming in at about 83 bucks. Still made in the USA, still 1095 carbon steel. You've got about 3 1/4 or 3 1/8 of an inch of blade itself. Good amount of belly here. This is obviously, especially with a name like 3-pointer, a small hunting knife design. Very easy to get your finger or my index finger out there near the tip of the knife, so you can do some nice sweeps with all that belly right there. And I said it before, I think it's a little more true of the micarta handled versions. Kind of a neat alternative to something like an Essie Azula, which is just one of those ever popular designs these days. Of course, you could always add your own scales to this. It's essentially drilled just like the standard one, so you've already got what you need to mount some hardware there. So it might be a fun little project, or you could just wrap it in some paracord if you want a little bit more girth, a little bit more grip. Blade steel itself is nice and thin. I think this is only about 3/32 of an inch before they coat it. With that nice, almost full flat grind on the blade, you've got a really good slicing profile, especially if you were to go in and strip that coating, which if it were me, would probably be what I do, but that's just sort of my thing. I did just check the specs here. It looks like when we micrometered this, it's like 0.13, so it probably started out as an 1/8 of an inch before it was coated. Now we do have a nice sheath here. Comes with a ball chain on the back, or on the end of it, with Tops' survival whistle. Now it is a Kydex sheath, and you've got a couple of straps here. And as you can see, you've got some snaps here. These are actually pull-the-dot snaps. So if you were to snag as you were going across something, they actually aren't going to pop loose. They're only going to be able to be removed if you pull straight up. So it's going to be, you'll be able to take it off your belt fairly easily, or put it back on for that matter, without having to worry about losing the sheath. Now, if you don't like this type of horizontal carry, the rivets on here are a size you could fit a standard size tech lock as well, so you can use that to get a few different mounting options. All right, now I've got a couple of new accessories here from Prometheus Design Works. The first is their Mark II survival lighter. Comes in at about 50 bucks, made right here in the USA out of titanium. And you wouldn't know it from looking at it that is a lighter. It looks more like a little pill capsule that you could put on your key ring. Certainly can put it on your key ring, but you unscrew the bottom here, and it's a nice flint and wick style of lighter. I'm not going to strike it. I'm not going to spark this one here because it's not filled with fluid yet. You do have to supply your own fluid, but this is going to work with just your typical Zippo fuel. But unlike a Zippo, you've got an O-ring right here, so when this is sealed up, it's not going to dry out. You're not going to come back a couple weeks later and not have any fuel left. In fact, they even supply it with some extra flints and wicks here, and it looks exactly like the little Zippo flint dispenser that you get. A couple extra O-rings in there as well, if you like, just to have those on hand, just in case, which is a nice little consideration. But I really love the form factor of that. Real easy to always have an emergency source of flame on you. And speaking of emergencies, if things are kind of like cold or wet and you might be fighting fatigue or fighting some feeling in your fingertips, that texture on here is going to come in really handy. It's going to be very easy to hold on to and to twist around as you need it. They even actually even include a small little tin that it comes in. Now, if you were to take out the foam in this, you could use this for a small survival kit. You could even maybe cook some small little things on here in an emergency situation. Make char cloth even if you drilled a tiny little hole in it there, because there's no gasket or anything there that might melt. Always nice to have some extra little tins lying around. Next up is a small screwdriver driver, or a small hex bit driver from them. It's called the PDW Ti-HBD. Bit of a mouthful, but it's a really nicely designed piece. Several different sizes of Torx bits here are included with it, and these are Weehaw bits as well, so they're nice and high quality. They didn't skimp out there. You got a top drawer piece of kit there. But these are made in the USA from titanium as well. The price is $69 if I didn't mention that yet. And check that out. I can spin the top there, which is a really nice little feature when you're going to adjust some knife pivots or anything like that, because you'll be able to palm that real easily and twist while the end in your palm isn't going to twist around on you. So really handy. And then you've even got a little bit of a engraving here at the top. That's the SBD Kraken, according to our website. Just a really cool little piece. All right, I'm sure you've all been wondering what this thing is here on the end of the table. This is from American Tomahawk Company, which is owned by RMJ Tactical these days. This is the Trench Club. Comes in 125 bucks right now, made in the USA. In terms of uses for this guy, it's all about in the kitchen. This is a potato smasher, you guys. Don't think it's anything else. You've got a nylon, a DuPont Super Tough nylon handle on these, just like some of the RMJ axes, and a nice metal piece there on the end. Looks almost like a mace, but again, this is a kitchen tool, you guys. But you do have a powder coat on that steel front end, which is good because this is a carbon steel, and when you're mashing those potatoes, you don't want any of that to get in there and rust away the metal there. Of course, this would work really good as a melon smasher as well. But if you're asking yourself and you're getting ready to type in the comments, why? Just cause, man. It's pretty fun. Anyway, that is all I've got to show you right now. Make sure to leave your comments down in the comments section. That is the appropriate place for comments after all. Let me know what you thought of these knives. Let me know what you're excited about. And if you want to get your hands on any of them, we will leave links in the description to take you over to the Knife Center. And while you're over there, make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program too. Because if you're going to buy one of these knives, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. All right, guys, before I sign out this time, I really want to ask you guys again, if you haven't followed our channel yet, we really would appreciate it if you do. If you haven't been following along, this has been a great year for us. Right at the beginning of the year, we cracked 50,000 subscribers, and we are already closing in on 100,000, but we really want to make sure we hit that before the end of the year. Would love it if you guys are able to help us out and be a part of that too. That's it. David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. I'm signing off now. See you next time.